that we find that a lot of leaders need to develop a lot more that isn't talked about nearly enough, which is the openness side of things.
And what does that look like?
Yes, so the definition as we define openness is listening without reservation, putting your needs and wants on pause for someone else. And now to be clear, it's not on pause for the whole time, but for the moment that you're speaking, to the best of my ability, I'm pausing that voice in my head, the thing that's trying to come up with my next response, the yeah, but, all of those things, and just really hearing what it is that you are saying, Pamela. Okay, let me listen without reservation, put aside any judgments, assumptions, preconceived notions that I might have, and just really work and focus on hear what you're saying.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. Well, we have two amazing guests today. I had this one guest on my last season, but I had to have her back, and she brought her co-owner or the founder of their organization. And I want to talk about today what a lot of us struggle with, communication. Maybe some of you are in a work situation where you know if you had better communication or maybe even a better leader that can lead to a better communication, that you could thrive in your position, because we all want to be good at what we do. But the problem is that we all can have a plan until the human factor comes into play. So that is my next guest are going to be here to talk about a book that they've had out. It's somewhat new because I had her on my show last season, but it's called No Honesty. You might see them in billboards around West Michigan. I know I have a few times, and people ask me about it. But today I have Ken Bogard and Grace Gavin, and she is going to be talking about what this book means and how this can change the culture in your business so you can thrive. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you, Grace.
Right.
Thank you,
Thank
Ken.
you.
I'm excited to be
I hope
here.
that was a good intro as fast as I could, because I really want to get to what this book is all about, because I know being part of Toastmasters, being in leadership positions myself, talking to leaders, being on boards, I think that one of the things I struggle with myself is communication. And we're humans. Why aren't we better at this, Ken? Why aren't we better at this, Grace? I'm serious. I'm thinking we've been around for thousands of years, and we're just struggling still with this problem. So that's why I had you on the show.
Sure.
I love it.
That's great. Well, I'd love to dive in
Yes,
to why
please.
we're not better at communication.
Okay.
If you'll
All
take
right.
it.
Please do.
I was thinking about it when we were talking a little bit earlier. It's so great talking to you about the issue, and you care so much about it, so that helps.
Right.
And I think the problem that I want to start with is just a supreme lack of education. We are not educated on how to communicate. And so sometimes we'll do a talk, and I like to ask everybody, I'm like, raise your hand if it was important to communicate honestly and openly in your household growing up. And so out of 100 people, maybe 20 people would raise their hand. I'm like, how many of you in grade school were taught the importance of being honest and open all of the time? And then maybe 5 hands go up, maybe 10. And then how about in high school? Well, no hands would go up, maybe 1 in high school. And so we're not taught the importance of being honest and open and communicating effectively. And then I said, well, how about in college, if you went to college? How about in your first job, second, third, fourth, fifth job? Were you taught the importance of communicating honestly and openly? And it's crickets. And then it's exacerbated even further because we have social media, which allows us to hide and not engage in good, rich, meaningful conversation one-on-one. And so it's getting worse and worse and worse. So the timing of everything that we have in that book and the work we're doing right now is perfect.
So how did you get interested in this? What are you, a normal did you just communicate well? Did you fix people's problems?
No, I mean, there's probably 50 different stories for how we got here, right? And every time I come on to a show like yours or a podcast or something like that, I'm just thinking, what's that right story? What feels right as it relates? And The one I want to share is one, because I screwed it up. My father raised me solo. He's a stoic German Lutheran retired engineer, ex-military, so he raised me solo.
That was my husband's dad too.
Really? It's amazing. And he's a loving dad. He taught me structure, discipline, gave me faith. So there's a lot of good that came with it, but communication was not one of those things. And so I had to learn that and how that messed me up as a young boy, to then becoming a raging jerk of a teenager, to then getting into the corporate world. But I think where I want to take it is, you know, I was sitting in a marketing class at Grand Valley State University, taught by Robert Fry. And he was teeing up the class, you know, getting us all excited for the class. And he goes, the single biggest issue in companies is, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say. He had all this experience from Whirlpool, you know, bringing Whirlpool internationally or into Asia. And I'm like, I'm going to get my money's worth. Here we go. And he looks at the class and he says, the single biggest issue with companies is communication. And I'm like, oh. I dropped my pen. I'm like, no way. Grown human, professional adults can't communicate. There's no way. What a joke. And how naive I was as a student to not believe this. And then you start getting into, like you said, the corporate world, and you start experiencing these things. And I'm like, lie after lie after lie from people, or skirting the truth to try to get your way, or the politicking that would take place, or the backstabbing. And it just grew in me, like, I have to fight this. Like, there's no way we should be tolerating this. And so I think that naive college student was like, no, if that's the case, we're going to fix it.
I think the key part of it is
Yeah, oh, great.
Yeah.
Grace, yes, please. And I can't wait to hear about.
I love
you know.
I love hearing Ken's story.
Okay,
We've been on so
please
many
share.
different shows together and still love it. I think the key part of what he talks about is that we assume we all know how to communicate because we can use our voices, use words, things like that. We have a shared language that we're talking, but we don't actually set the expectations of this is what it means, this is how we operate within this organization. And so we're left to our own devices of, you know, maybe I got away with lying in my last job and saying things were going well, but that's not going to fly at this one because they have clear expectations. Or maybe that's how I was raised. Like, I think about, I'm the last of 8 kids in my family, and so there's a lot of communication going on.
So you're spoiled.
Yeah, she wishes, I think.
It depends on who you ask. It depends.
Okay.
But I grew up in a family business too, and so it wasn't just having that many people in the house and that many siblings, but also the business side of things. And just things not being absolutely clear of this is how we operate within this business, this is how we operate within this family. And I think that's a lot of what it comes into, is when we talk about the definitions of being open, being honest. Are you doing that within your organizations? Or are you just kind of letting whatever people had happen in their past bring that into here? And then that kind of creates your culture in a way that you didn't do intentionally. I think that's a big part of it, is the expectations
Who does
aren't
it?
there.
But who sets that?
Leadership.
Because, you know, is it, do you, when you go in, right, and you see, I mean, you guys recognize the problem right away?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I figured as much. I'm like, but because, you know, you guys are experts. You're open to honest. You've been doing this for a while, so now you can start picking up on it. But I mean, who sets it? Do they have a meeting on this is what we're going to be? I mean, what does that look like in corporate? Because I was director, and I wanted to know, and I thought I was doing a really good job because I cared. But that turned out to be a disaster, right? And people weren't honest with me, and then you find out later that there's all this going on behind your back, and then it all goes south, right? I think a lot of people suffer from that. I hear it all the time. It's like, I didn't realize that my such and such was, you know, does that make sense? Do you hear that?
Yeah, when we're working with clients, we have to start at the leadership level. It has to start there. It has to come from the top, because if this behavior is not expected at the top of the organization, then it's not fair to expect it for the rest of them. And if they are getting away with behaviors that are not in line with the expectations for the company, then nobody else is going to follow it. I'm not going to look to a leader and say, well, they're not doing this way, so why should I?
Right.
Is what I hear a lot from clients. So we're working with leadership, and these are muscles, they're skills. You're building the ability to be honest, the ability to be open. So I tell my clients all the time, look, I don't expect you to be perfect or 100% of the time, but I do expect that you're working on it, that you're exhibiting these skills, that you're working through it, that you're having conversations with your people. And I think that's something really clear to make the distinction too, because we haven't talked about it yet in this conversation, is the difference between being honest and being open. Because a lot of times what we see happening with clients is that they put the two together and they just take it to be about me, myself, and I. But that doesn't work if we're in a conversation. And so to be clear, what we mean by honest is being truly and freely yourself, speaking into what you want and how you feel. It's the you side of the conversation. That's really important.
And I like to say, let your freak flag fly. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
We just want the real you. Don't skirt it. Don't fake it. Don't be somebody else. Just be you. Relax. Put your shoulders down. Put the truth on the table. And then we need the other side of it, though. And you were about to, sorry, I stole that
Let's
from you.
talk. Yeah, let's talk about that. So you go in, all right, because I can see myself. You coming into my office, and you know we have I guess nobody wants to admit they have a cultural problem. They don't want to admit that they. Do you see that with CEOs? You know, it's not me.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then you find out, you know what? But it's you that's going to lead this to better. Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to change. Like if I was dealing with Ken that doesn't like communication, I'm like, well, you know, he's got his favorites, and he just hangs out with them, and he doesn't seem like he listens to me. And that's what a lot of people say. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody cares what I think, and everybody has their favorites. Is that? I mean, how does that work when you're going into a corporate situation like that, where you have to deal with the top? You're talking CEO, you know, the financial people, all that kind of stuff, and you're just like, yeah, it's got to start with you guys. And how you communicate. So what does that look like when you go in and you start working like that? What would a person?
Yeah.
You do a personality test. What's the deal? How do you communicate? You ask questions.
Yeah.
I mean, how's that work?
There's a whole process that we take people through, but I think the key part in the example that you're talking about, they have favorites, they don't talk to me. You got to have that conversation with somebody to say, hey, you know, a lot of what we do as human beings is just based on assumptions. Like, hey, I'm just assuming Pamela's got these favorites and she doesn't like me because of that. Is that really the case? Have we had a conversation about that? Is there a reason? Maybe I'm underperforming and I'm not doing as well. But we just kind of make these assumptions and then we let it get in the way. And so the other key part of this, what we found is, so people not being honest was a clear problem in the workplace. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Why do people feel like they can't let their freak flag fly, like they have to lie, they have to skirt the truth, say everything's great?
Because they're going to get fired. I mean, people hear it all the time, right?
Yeah,
you start to think, I'm going to be out of the group. I'm going to be ousted.
Yes, that is part of it. And that's where the other side of the equation comes in, that we find that a lot of leaders need to develop a lot more that isn't talked about nearly enough, which is the openness side of things.
And what does that look like?
Yes. So the definition, as we define openness, is listening without reservation, putting your needs and wants on pause for someone else. And now to be clear, it's not on pause for the whole time, but for the moment that you're speaking, to the best of my ability, I'm pausing that voice in my head, the thing that's trying to come up with my next response, the yeah, but, all of those things, and just really hearing what it is that you are saying, Pamela. Okay, let me listen without reservation, put aside any judgments, assumptions, preconceived notions that I might have, and just really work and focus on hear what you're saying. Because what we find is that if you don't think I'm going to be open to whatever it is you have to say, if you're coming to me saying, hey, Grace, I feel like you're playing favorites and I'm not getting the leadership or the attention that I need from you, you're not going to come say that to me if you don't think I'm going to be open to it. If I'm just going to brush you aside or not hear anything that you have to say. And so then that's where the honesty, where we're missing that, where you feel like you have to lie, everything's going great, it's fantastic, or no, I'm doing well.
Boss, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's got my back when you feel like you're always looking behind you, right?
Exactly, yes. And so that's the big, huge, I think when we were working through this book and doing the research, that was a big aha, I'll say at least on my part, of like, okay, this is the kind of the silent killer, if you will, of what we find in leadership, that especially as you rise up in the ranks and you continue to grow in your field, in your position, things like that, your honesty continues to go up, but your openness tends to either go down or not grow alongside it. And that's the big skill that we find a lot of leaders are missing.
If I can pile on to that point, if we could, if society would accept it, we'd change the book to be called No Openness. But that is a far less sexy title. You know, so no honesty, I think that raises eyebrows
Right.
and gets people thinking.
Yes.
And primarily thinking about themselves, like my honesty, who I am, what I want, me, myself, and I. You know, in the last 15 years, how we've been pushed is be your authentic self, be you, be vulnerable. What's your identity? These 4 things have been pushed on us in the last 15, maybe 20 years. And so what happens is that creates a very individualistic culture and society. And so now 300 some million people in the US are vying for creating their one world. They want to create their world only.
Right.
And anybody else that rubs against that, they're not willing to accept that. And so because of that, what we have to have, if we're going to navigate this life together, you have to have openness. And it is the most important piece of the book.
It is.
By far, because everybody's going to pick it up for the honesty, right? So we tricked you a little bit just to get you to pick the thing up. But really, the takeaway for all leaders is, man, if you open up to people and you really listen to them without reservation, so when you're speaking, I'm totally there for you, man, you are in tune with another human being. There is so much more understanding to be had and a togetherness that can be unbreakable when done right.
Well, what about, let's talk about the timing of honesty. Did I put it upside down? Oh, there. I thought it was upside down. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the timing, because there's times where I read your book, I've used it, and I have shared it with many people, and I've used the tools that you put in there. I mean, I know it's for the corporate world, but it does work for your personal life too, on that one. But what I'm struggling with right now is timing. When is that honesty, when you kind of, something in your gut just says, you know what, this should wait for another time. This is not a good time to be. I don't know how that looks in the corporate world, but personally, there's things I struggle with, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna, I want to be honest, but I'm gonna wait on this. And you're in a, you know, does that make sense? Do people deal with the same thing? It's like, you know what, okay, how I was talking to you is what's too honest, right? Where you get people are so offended today, and it's just like, it's not like I'm per se, I want everyone to do well. We all do, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that but on average, we do. I always tell people, I wish you good things, always good things.
Yeah.
But how does that, sometimes I deal with, okay, I'm glad you're having good things, but I feel like crap. I don't feel like my life is thriving. And then there's that little, I guess, jealousy? It's not even envy, but it's just, I want good things for me too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they see you thriving, and you see you thriving, and whatever. How does CEOs deal with, you got some people that come into their own and they start to excel and they start to move because they've gotten the tools to communicate, whatever, and they start to move and they start using those even in the world. Oh my gosh, I got on this board, because they are better communicators.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, nobody likes you at work. I see this all the time.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, what happened? Yeah, as soon as I started thriving, I was getting, you know, out in the public, it all, you know, people get how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think I'll take the timing question, and you can take the jealousy. You like that? So I think from the timing perspective, to me, it's got to be as soon as possible.
Don't hold it in.
No, because what that does for us individually is it just weighs us down. So what you're holding on to is holding you down. That's one of the quotes from the book. But if you continue, like Ken and I, we've had arguments before, and I got to go back to him and say, look, I'm still holding on to this. We got to talk this through.
I read one of those in the story.
Yeah, we do, and that's the way that I work through it. But the other part of that that's really key there is that as long as we continue to hold on to it, like, oh, I should have this conversation, but I'm not ready or I'm uncomfortable, that's going to block our relationship. That's going to ruin my ability to be open to whatever it is he has to say next, because I'm still thinking about that last conversation, this conversation that we need to have. Now, the caveat there is if it's a conversation you got to have one-on-one with somebody, don't have it in a public setting with a bunch of other people around in a team. That's maybe not appropriate. Definitely not social media. I mean, I always prefer in person, but the timing perspective as soon as possible, because it's going to weigh on you, and they don't know any better. That person has no idea probably where you're at, and it's going to ruin the relationship. Yeah,
that they said something that really triggered something.
Yeah, so that's
true. You're every age you've ever been. I told Ken.
Right.
Ken. but you don't know what's triggering you.
Yeah.
And like that. And then what was the other question you needed to
The
answer?
jealousy one.
Jealousy, yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for the much
or
more
how much is too
difficult
honest?
one. I'll take it though. Too honest.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, we got to back it up a little bit. So picture a team of 5 people right here. So we got 2 more people at the table with us. The whole thing does not work if we don't agree that we're going to communicate a certain way. So it does not work. This whole thing that we're talking about does not work if you can't get all the 4 other members to say, you know what, we agree we're going to work on being 100% honest and we're going to be 100% open. If the team does not agree to that, forget it. Go ahead and drop it, put the book down, give it to somebody else that's open-minded to it. But if you have that, you have full permission to take it wherever you need to then, right? And so I think when we first started working together, we talked about it all the time. And now we just have it. Now it's a natural part of our life. We don't have to keep educating each other. It's just a part of our life. I'm totally honest with her. She's open to me. She's honest back at me, and I'm totally open to her. And sometimes it stings a little bit. But we agree to it. And so we got to stay in it if we agree to it. So when somebody's jealous, if we are a team that's agreeing in this scenario, then I think it's really important for that person to talk about why they're jealous. That person at the top to be totally open to it.
Can you see that when you
Yes, yeah. So it happens, and so as facilitators, and the beauty behind our work is that we come in, we're totally non-biased.
go in? Right.
Right.
Not
And
emotionally
so
attached.
you know that is a gift, and that's great. And I think I'm talking myself out of a job here, but it's like, how do we get the 5 members of the team to do that same approach with everybody? Just completely non-biased when we're hearing things to each other. Best you can. Really hard to do. But to really hear each other out from a point of zero and seek to understand where they're coming from and what they're saying. So the person who's having a crazy amount of success, I would hope, after working with us, can have the kind of safety in the room where he or she can say, hey, I'm feeling like a strain on the team. Ever since I got to a certain position, it feels like either you all aren't rooting for me or I've done something wrong. If that person can be really vulnerable and honest about where they're at, and that team's really hearing them out, and can be honest back and tell them what's going on. But again, why that doesn't normally work is because most teams don't subscribe to this. They don't believe it, they don't want it, they fight it. You know, how many people through the work we do push against our stuff, and they're like, you can't be honest all the time, and
Yeah.
you can't be open all the time. And I'm like, well, give it a shot, try it and
It
see what it
takes a
can do
skill,
for
though,
you.
don't you think?
Big
I mean,
time.
because we hold back.
Big time.
And then we find more energy talking at the water cooler against somebody. Gossip is very powerful, right?
Yeah.
You think you got a secret.
Yes.
You got something. You're actually bonding with somebody with the
Yes.
same secret, right? Or the same disagreements.
Right.
And that's very powerful.
Sure.
Allies are and we all want them. But then something deep down tells you this isn't right. There's always something that's saying this isn't right, but you know what? We're friends, and you get my position. So you
Right.
understand where I'm coming from, right? We get that. There's a power in there. I see it everywhere, and I don't know if that's human or women taught that.
Yeah.
There's
It's
the human
normal.
factor. Is
It's
that normal?
It is normal to do that. It's everywhere. Every company does it. Nobody can say that they don't.
Okay.
It's happened to everybody. But the idea is that we're trying to snip that out of the culture. So let's just say we're in a triangle type situation here, and you are, let's just say I'm not a fan of Grace, which
Okay.
you know is not true. But I say I'm not. I go to you. I'm at the coffee lounge or wherever we're at, and I'm like, you know what? I think Grace, how she's acting, I don't like how she's acting. I don't like what she's doing, and I'm telling you this. I've put you in the worst position possible.
Correct.
That's how we got to start seeing it, and we can't tolerate it. And so the position I put you in is either you're going to take my trust, and we're going to build a relationship over this one, and you're totally betraying Grace.
Right.
Or you betray my trust, and you go straight to her. And so
Everyone's
now I've
been
put
there.
you in that choice. Yeah, everybody's done it, right? And now, when you start learning that and you start seeing it as loudly as I see it these days, I don't allow it. So sometimes I'll get a phone call from a leader, and they're saying, hey, I got to talk to you about somebody. And I say, okay, well, just so you know, whatever you tell me has got to make it back to that individual. And so either I'm going to help you with that, or we're going to decide how we're going to do that, but you can't leave me with that. don't put me in that situation.
What do they say back?
They will sometimes skirt it a little bit, or they will straight up tell me how it is. Now,
Okay.
there are two exceptions. There are HR policies and there are legal obligations, right? So you're not going to get around that in this country.
Correct.
And so we're stuck with those two. So if it's tied up in legalities, fine. I guess I got to hold on to it. But if it's not, man, it should not rest with me. You're trying to build a team and a relationship with the people around you. We have to find a way to make sure that that goes to that person. And it does not have to be brutally honest, because that's the wrong way to deliver honesty.
I know. We all know brutally honest. It's almost like after you have a couple drinks. Like I said, my dad was great. He never had alcohol at any of our family parties because then we'd all be going, and another thing, because you wanted to say, right?
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I was reading in the book too when you were talking about that, the brutal honest. I wanted to say, who is this? So you wrote this book. Is this for an individual? I mean, for me, I took it, I learned a lot. Beyond, I was apprehensive at first.
Yeah.
Because, I thought I knew a lot about communication because I'm in Toastmasters. And then I sit there going, oh my gosh, I had so many notes in here and I've got to go back. This is great for a speech. This is great, So it was a really powerful, I became very self-aware of myself.
Yeah.
So when you're having struggles at work, you can always see that with people. It's like, I see myself. I see myself 10 years ago. I see myself 5 years ago. And there's this power thing is you don't know, I always tell people, you don't know what's coming down the road.
Right.
If you act like this, if this goes on, it's not going to
Yeah.
go well for us. But please, I want to know, now that you've been out, you have your business, you go in these businesses, what kind of success? I mean, what is CEOs are like, man, we've been able to thrive, or we've been able to get this project done without so much, because that's what you deal with, is just putting, CEOs tell me all the time, I just put out fires.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, put out fires, and I'm exhausted. I just go in. I know people, I just go in and it's a bad, I'll bring a cake. I'll do anything to bring camaraderie, to bring some togetherness.
Right.
And they would be, beneficial to get you guys to say, you know what, there's other skills you can have besides bringing cake.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what are some CEOs are saying, some of the leaders that you are working with and starting to see this work?
Yeah.
Sure.
I have a client of mine. They are a 3-person leadership team, and they were going through some struggles with one of the people they weren't sure was in the right seat. He wasn't getting what needed to be done within the role. And I was talking with the leader, and she said, you know what, Grace, it was really great to have gone through your training because I had the language to say, hang on, I feel like you're putting up a wall here to what I'm saying. And I really need you to bring it down. I need you to be open to what I'm saying. I need you to be open to this feedback because this is for the betterment of the company. And they had that shared language. He recognized in himself. He said, okay, yeah, I am putting up a wall here. And that's tough feedback to get, especially at the leadership level, that you are not potentially in the right seat that you're supposed to be because you're not completing what it is that needs to happen for this company. Do we need to look at moving you to a different seat or maybe demoting? Like, that's the kind of conversation they were having. And she said because we had that shared language, we could stay at a level playing field and not rise to the emotions of anger and upset and things like that we could still stay rational with each other.
Get it.
And that's what we're talking about. That's, yeah.
And to pile on some of the successes, a little more tangible from our assessment. People that are able to be 20% more honest in the workplace were 20% happier with their lives.
All right, so where can they get the book? How can they reach you to help them improve their culture at work so they can start, some of these businesses start thriving?
Sure.
Yeah, you can find the book anywhere books are sold. Amazon's the primary spot to find it.
Yeah.
You can reach out to Ken and I on LinkedIn. He's under Ken Bogard. I'm Grace Gavin. We talk about this all the time. So if you have a burning question after listening to this, like, yeah, but what about this scenario? Or my team needs this. We love talking about this, so please reach out to us, and we would love to have the conversation and start working on this throughout your organization, because it's got to start somewhere.
Well, let's have an open and honest conversation, right?
That's
Let's sit
right.
down. You know what? So thank you so much for being on my show. I could talk about this. I'll probably have you back because I do think the power of communication, and like you mentioned, I talked to you about it, being part of Toastmasters. It's a game changer, and it will help your personal life, which people, you have to go home and deal with that too, right? And you can do it without people even noticing that you're picking up these skills, which is I always think it's good, right? All right. And we want to thank Grace for being here. Ken,
Yes,
for
thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
All right. This is Pamela Keim from Grand Tap Media. Get the book. We'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.